Five, four, three. Hi, everybody. DUGROZ here with DUGROZ Reports. Welcome to Saturday Morning Live. Today is Saturday, April 27th, 2024, and I'm reporting live from my house. Glad to see each and every one of you, whether you're watching live or you're watching after the fact. Let's go ahead and dive in today with some DUGROZ data points around the world of credit, things I've observed either in my personal accounts or just things that I am interested in. There is a promotion by the U.S. Travel Bureau or something like that called Daily Getaways, and they've had some epic sales in the past where you can buy points, travel packages, gift cards, those kind of things. That's actually going on right now, and it's a different deal every day. One that has caught my eye is available this coming Monday, April 29th, and that's the opportunity to buy choice points for choice hotels. And there's four different packages. There's 55,000 points for $285 on the high end, and on the low end, 14,000 points for $84. And there's two in between as well. So that ranges from anywhere between 0.52 to 0.6 cents per point, depending on which package you buy. I did a video earlier this year where I declared the value in our community of choice points to be 1.25 cents per point. In other words, if you do a little bit of cherry picking, you can get 1.25 cents per point. So if you're buying in at somewhere between half a cent and 0.6 cents per point, redeeming at 1.25 cents per point, that's pretty good. That does interest me. I'll probably be getting at least one of the packages. Now, I've never done it before, but from what I've heard, they do tend to go kind of fast. So I don't know if it'll hold up or not. Next data point, Hilton points are also on sale, but this is the more traditional way of buying Hilton points. Half a cent each, and you just go into your Hilton account and to the points section, buy points. You can buy those Hilton points at half a cent each, and I think I declared it to be 0.85 cents per point with a little bit of cherry picking. If you're not using Fifth Night Free, if you are using Fifth Night Free, 1 cent per point is the value you should be able to get fairly easily. Now, this deal might be it might be targeted. We're not really sure. I guess cherry picked for who has it. There are some reports on Frequent Miler that some people had half a cent each and some people had like 0.85 cents each. So if you have 0.85 cents, don't buy that. But if you have the half cent each, that's worth doing. That runs until May the 14th. And on the lowest level, you would have to spend at least $60 to get 12,000 points. That's the minimum bonus. If you buy less than $60 worth, you don't get that better rate. Welcome aboard to DUGROZ Diehards, Chad Pennycuff, John R., and Matt Clausen, I see in the chat area. Glad to have you on board. For those of you who don't know, if you want to support my channel, a unique way and beneficial way is through a channel membership. I have one and only one channel membership level. It's called a DUGROZ Diehard. It's only $3 a month, and you can cancel anytime. You do get access to priority replies, early videos, but most importantly, I do have some member-only videos where I share my stream of consciousness. Other regulars on board I see here are Chad's Money Minutes, Luke's Points and Miles, Chad, the other Chad, Chad Pennycuff, Chad's Money Minutes, and then just plain Chad. Glad to have each one of you on board, as well as Riff Raff. Welcome aboard, each and every one of you. Next up, DUGROZ data point, excuse me. I got some morning sinuses. We had some severe weather last night, so I didn't sleep super well. Hey, QC man, I'll come back to that in just a few moments. U.S. Bank and the Altitude Reserve Card. Many of you are aware that there was an issue back in January, February, and for some people, it went even longer than that with the US Bank Altitude Reserve. That's a card where it's supposed to give you 3 cents per point on all mobile wallet transactions. But at least in my case, there was a period of time where that was not happening. Almost the entire month of January, I was only getting 1 cent per point. So we did have some news and movement on that front last week. I'm going to share my screen here. There might be a brief pause. So last week, as it relates to the Altitude Reserve, there was a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. And in case you didn't catch it, there's a little kitty hiding inside, surprising us here. So when I looked on my mobile app, I saw this entry, rewards adjustment for 1,042 points. Now, this doesn't specifically say what those 1,042 points are for, but if you saw the last video I did on this topic, when I manually calculated it, I was missing 1,041 points. So I thought, oh, well, my calculations were pretty close. I was only off by 1 point. I betcha that's them finally fixing the missing points issue. And then I get a letter in the mail from US Bank at about the same time, and it reads as follows. Dear Douglas, we recently identified a technical issue impacting the earning of 3x points on mobile wallet spending on some Altitude Reserve cards. Specifically, points that were eligible to earn 3x only earned 1 point. Please rest assured we're working to fix the error, and in the meantime, we will be crediting the appropriate point balances to all impacted card members. If your account has been impacted, you will see additional points deposited into your account within the next 2 to 3 weeks. We apologize for the inconvenience. Yeah, everything in that letter is good except for the word recently. I don't think they recently identified it when I've been talking about it since early February, but I guess to each their own. The important point is it is now resolved. So at least those of us who went through our long nightmare of dealing with the Altitude Reserve posting points incorrectly, that has been fixed. I did see at least one of my DUGROZ diehards or regular followers reached out to me on Discord and sent me a private message saying they had also had their points restored. So that is good news indeed. And then if you saw my retention offer video, they actually gave me 5,000 points on top of that just for the inconvenience / customer niceness. QC Man and Juan Garcia are also DUGROZ diehards that have arrived. I will mention just before I forget that since I have memberships, I also have super chats. So if you want to drop me a buck or two in the chat box, I would not object to that whatsoever. Those of you who are regulars know that all of my income generated is going towards my technology fund to get a new computer because I'm still broadcasting on a Google Chromebook as of right now. It's up to somewhere around like $690. That's all of my YouTube earnings combined, both advertising and memberships and supers. I need to get up to somewhere between 800 and 1,000. I'm debating whether or not I kind of forward myself the money, put it on a credit card that I don't have to pay for a month, or a 0% interest credit card, because, we're in the credit community. We know how to do that. And we're good at managing our finances. I also have a rule to keep YouTube and travel separate from family budgets. So I can't take it out of my family budget, but we're going to be getting there in the not too distant future. Should just be about another month or so, a month and a half probably at the latest. I've taken a couple trips lately, and I'll just speak to those in a very general sense, but I'm going to have breakdowns coming. On April 7th through 9th, I went to Southern Illinois to see the solar eclipse, and most of you probably saw I did a live stream on that, but I will do a breakdown on points used and how I paid for it. That'll be coming in the near future. If you want to see just the fun side, the travel, the history, the driving around, taking pictures eating at fun cafes, those kind of things. From now on, I will be posting the non-points and miles part of my travel on my alternate channel, DUGROZ Nostalgia. Just type in DUGROZ and then Nostalgia, Nostalgia, and subscribe to that channel if you want to see the non-points and miles part of my adventures. It's also just where I dump anything that isn't appropriate for this channel. I do have the trip to Southern Illinois and back on there. And then the second trip I've taken since we last collaborated was to West Virginia and Virginia. Country roads took me home. It was not my home, but it was a place where I belong. Boy, I like visiting West Virginia. I've done that twice now. Twice since I got into points and miles. I've done it at least once before that. And waterfalls, rocks, nature, a lot of history, dead presidents, that kind of stuff, right up my alley. So haven't done any breakdowns on that other than a few community tab photos, but a breakdown of how I paid for that will be coming on this channel, and I'll put my nerdy non-points and miles stuff over on DUGROZ Nostalgia. So those are on the way. John R. reminds folks, don't forget to slap the like button and subscribe. John and I are trying to figure out a time when we can get together and do a collaboration since we live fairly close together. Matt Clausen says, waiting for my conditional approval to flip over to official, but man, the process was my quickest business card approval once flipped over. What card are you talking about, Matt? I must have missed that in a prior comment. YouTube Experiment is on board and says, hello. Did I miss the future with Amex yet? Nope, not yet. And yeah. Okay. Speaking of that, good transition, YouTube Experiment. Let's dive in to sorry. Let's face it, folks, I'm never going to be a mainstream media talk show host. Let's dive into today's main event, my future with American Express. So we've all seen videos out there from lots of folks, including but not limited to Luke's Points and Miles, who's on board today, about why they canceled the Amex Gold. Other Amex cards seem to be trending downwards a little bit in our community. And I thought I would share just kind of an overview of how Amex fits into my portfolio of what I do. This isn't specifically a response to those trends, but hey, why not jump on the bandwagon? But before I do that, I need to give a little context. I always say, or at least almost always say, just because something in points and miles is right for me does not mean it's right for you. So in the words of Sledge, do your own research. And also, how you travel is going to impact the ecosystem you use, the cards you use, and where you put your spending focus. So to help transition into why I do or do not use Amex cards, it's important to know how I travel. And I'm just going to be like a teacher here for a moment and give you several examples and ask you to look for the patterns. And while I'm doing that, if you want to put a comment over here about any travels that you do that kind of fit with what I'm describing, you'll see the pattern real quick. I'm going to go in reverse order. So my most recent trip was a RIP trip to Virginia and West Virginia. And I covered the rental car with my Chase Sapphire Reserve. I got an Airbnb using a gift card, and I bought that with cash. So that's the equivalent of using cash. I used my Aeroplan card to pay myself back on several things on that trip. It really came in handy, such as like if I ate at the restaurant inside the Kimpton, charge it to my room. That goes in the Aeroplan card, pay myself back somewhere between 1.25 and 1.625 cents per point. I used IHG points. I used an IHG free night certificate. I used choice points, some of which I think were transferred over from Citi. And I used American airline points that I just had on board. Some of them were from flying with American, some were from my Basque bank account, which gives interest in the form of American miles. And I did this trick well over a year ago where you made a donation to this one charity and got like 240 points per dollar with American Airlines. That was just economy. I did use my Aeroplan card to upgrade to the exit row on the way back. Interesting story. So we had to switch planes because it was a mechanical problem. So it went from a plane with one exit row to two. So they kind of moved people around, but I was still in the exit row. And interestingly, the lady sitting 2 seats over from me introduced herself. She was from Puerto Rico, and I almost said, "Oh, do you know Cesar Joel?" I realize that's like assuming I know every single person that lives in the state of Iowa. Anyway, she said something like, "Yeah, they moved us around. I got the exit row, but my husband, my kid are up there in a middle and a window seat. Do you want to trade with them? You would get a window seat and an empty seat all to yourself." And I'm like, No, I actually paid extra to choose this seat. So I think I'll keep my massive amount of leg room and cushier chair. It's like, okay. Continuing on with my trips in reverse order. When I went to see the solar eclipse in early this month, I went to Southern Illinois and back, and I used Hilton points for the hotel. I used the US Bank Altitude Reserve for my car rental, and that was about it. There was no plane travel involved, it was all driving. Back in March, my family spent one day in Peoria, Illinois, and I used IHG points and cash for that. In early January, I went to Chicago to see family, and I used a hotels.com credit that I'd got with cash and my Aeroplan card and a IHG free night certificate. In October, I went to central Wisconsin with my two boys, and I stayed in a Vacasa cabin that was paid for with Wyndham points. I used more Airbnb gift cards, which again is a form of cash. And then I used cash itself from my travel savings account whenever I use like a cashback card, like my US Bank Cash Plus or something like that. If I get a bank account bonus, I put it in there. Sometimes I cash out Chase points. Every now and then I cash out Amex points. So that's what I mean when I say cash. We had the creator meetup on Labor Day. And for that, I flew Southwest. I had some Southwest credits left over. I used some Southwest points that I transferred over from Chase. I used a whole bunch of IHG points and got fifth night free for myself and my brother-in-law. I used my US Bank Altitude Reserve to cover the rental car. I used the Aeroplan card to cover things like parking garages. And I used cash to cover everything else. So, are you noticing any patterns here of the kind of travel I do and how I pay for it? There's a lot of domestic travel, and some of it involves flying, some of it doesn't. Mostly these are short flights, no more than 3 hours. Oftentimes I have to have a layover because I live in a small market airport. I became Irish for just a second there. Did you see American Express anywhere on that list? You did not. Now, if you go back one more trip, the big one, where my family went to England and Sweden, in that trip, American Express fit in prominently into that trip. Transferred Amex points and Capital One in large amounts. I don't remember how many, but we're talking business class trips both ways for a family of four to either Virgin Atlantic or Flying Blue to get across the ocean. And I don't have it written down, but I'm sure that was well over 300,000 points. Well, hey, look, one of my diehards, John, has dropped a super chat of $2. Thank you so much, John, putting that into the computer fund as we speak. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. So, if you're wondering what my travel style is, it's mostly domestic economy travel. I'm renting cars and driving around looking at monuments, tombs, bridges, statues, those kind of things. I love renting cars because you can go to the little out of the way restaurant. There was a place called the Johnson Corner Restaurant in Alton, Illinois that I stopped at. Had a tenderloin that was perfection there. Probably never would have found it if I was just using Uber or Lyft. So again, my travel style doesn't have to be the same as yours, but I'm saying other than taking one big international trip every other year, that's the goal. Everything else is domestic economy, rental car, Holiday Inns, Hampton Inns, Country Inn and Suites by choice. Yes, there's an occasional Kimpton or a fancier hotel mixed in there. I'll have to talk about that sometime, and I will, because that was very fancy. But for the most part, Embassy Suites. I like to go and do my DUGROZ type things. And that's the kind of place I'm staying. That's the kind of travel I'm doing. That's the kind of flights I'm taking. So the question is, does Amex fit into that? Well, to be honest with you, it's a bit of a challenge. Now, if my computer's getting really laggy here, I sincerely apologize. I'm going to try to do something I haven't done in a very long time. I'm going to use a PowerPoint presentation, technically Google Slides, while we're talking. I have done this before, and I can pretty much guarantee my mouth is not going to match the audio that you're hearing. But as long as the audio is good, just listen to what I'm saying. Don't worry about my mouth keeping up so much. If at any point it gets so bad that you can't hear what I'm saying, please let me know. Let me catch up on comments just a little bit here. I asked Matt Clausen which credit card he was applying for. He responded the Signify Cash. And Devil Davenport asked a question about buying points. I'll come back to that. Sam K has joined me from the United Kingdom, 5 or 6 hours ahead of us, so sometime in the afternoon. Philmo says he has time to pop in and say hi before I go explore an opportunity to meet a sub vehicle repair. Have a great day. John says that's a crappy way to meet a sub. Crappy but necessary. Yeah, I had to replace the tie rods on my car and drop $600 on that recently. Fortunately, it all went on a credit card. Oh yeah, I should actually talk about that, so I'll put that under here. Always keep my time permitting list here. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. We're all going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that this goes well, but visual aids are handy so you can see what's going on with my portfolio of Amex cards. Are you able to see a grouping of 10 Amex cards on your screen? Give me just a quick comment. Let me know if you are or are not. This is a picture of every Amex card that I have ever had. Thank you, Chad, for the verification. And when I say I, it's actually me and Mrs. DUGROZ, player 2. A card that has a golden or yellow border is in my name. A card that has the pink or purplish border is in my wife's name. So we'll just go through these one at a time, and I'll explain what I got and what I didn't got. But before I do that, I do need to let you in on some information related to these. That entire top row has been canceled, so I don't have any of those cards anymore. Let's talk about why I got them and a little bit about why they were closed. So this is in no particular order. My Hilton business card, it looks different now, but that's what it looked like at the time I got it, was opened in February of 2021. and closed about 2 years later in April of 2023. Anytime there's a no annual fee card, you'll tend to notice it's not quite exactly the 1 year anniversary, 2 year anniversary. It's usually a month or two later. That's because it takes them about a month to produce the first statement, and you get 30 days to cancel the back end. So it's usually like a year and a month, a year and 2 months, something like that. This card was great for a sign-up bonus. Got a bunch of Hilton points. Don't remember how many. Got me gold status, which at the time I didn't have, but there's other ways to get that, which I've since taken care of. For a while, I had it with my my business platinum card, and I've since gotten a surpass. At the end of the first year, they threw a retention offer at me. I don't honestly remember what it was, but it was really easy to get. In fact, it might have even been one of those, like, just keep the card and we'll waive the annual fee for the second year type retention offers. But at the end of the second year, no such luck, so it was closed. I did have the American Express Business Cash, and I'll be honest with you, I got that just for the sign-up bonus. And then I wanted to transition into the cards that earned MR points if I'm going to have a 2X card, so I ended up closing it. You can also only have so many Amex cards. Depending on who you ask, it might be 5, it might be more. So I closed it to make room for others. The first MR earning card that I ever had was the American Express Business Green card. And all by itself, this card is trash. I mean, trash to the third degree. It earns 1 point on everything and then 2 points on the Amex travel portal, and that's it. But the reason I opened it was because I had this targeted offer where two things happened at once. It was like every time I spent, I think it was $2,000 or $3,000, I got 20,000 extra points, plus the $25,000 sign-up bonus, plus 20 or 25,000 points every time I brought in an authorized user and spent so much on their card. And those two stacked. So it was like every time I spent $2,000 with an authorized user, or they call them employee cards since it's business, I got like 45,000 points. So my mom got an authorized user card. My dad got one. My wife got one. My first son got one. My second son got one. The most MR points I've ever got from one card was from this card, and it was the first one I got. It was like 250,000 points just from doing all those weird targeted things they had going on. Anyhow, it was opened in November of 2021 and closed just a little over a year later, still within the grace period, in January of 2023. My wife had a platinum card for 2 years. It was opened in March of 2021 and closed in April of 2023. This was just for the sign-up bonus. We did all the things with all the credits. At the end of the first year, they did give us a retention offer. I think it was $400 if we spent like $2,000, something like that. With all the different credits you can get, I thought, okay, well, I'll keep it for another year, see how it goes. Got the credits, good card. For some people, great card. Just didn't seem to fit what we were doing. The American Express Gold card, the most controversial closure of all probably, was in my wife's name, and she opened it in November of 2021. We kept it into the second year and closed it in January of 2024. I could talk a lot about what I liked about the card and what I didn't like about the card. Obviously, we all know it's 4X on grocery and dining. And while I do a lot of dining, not compared to some people, but a fair amount, I usually eat out at least once a week, plus 2 or 3 fast food trips. The $250 annual fee really eats into that. Now, I know people will say, yeah, but what about your Uber credit? What about your Grubhub credit? I got so sick of using those, and I was basically modifying my behavior just to get the credits, and it got really old. I know it's also 4X on grocery, and someone like John R. might take good use of that. He has a Walmart neighborhood market that codes as grocery. We do 80 to 90% of our grocery shopping at Walmart, and this is just a regular old Walmart with online delivery, and it does not code and as grocery. And we don't have any neighborhood markets in our area. So It would just be 1x for us. I do go to Hy-Vee and Fairway, which are other grocery stores, but not enough to make it worthwhile. That's more like a here and there kind of thing. Handy if you're buying gift cards, but not for real grocery shopping. So I ended up closing it. And if you want to know why I closed it, just look up Luke's Points and Miles video on why he closed his Amex Gold card. And the thoughts are basically exactly the same as mine. So those are all the cards I've closed, and that brings me to the Amex cards that are still open. I drew a nice white line here. On the left are the cards that do not earn membership rewards, and on the right are the cards that do earn membership rewards. So we have the Blue Cash Every Day in the top left, and that's a cash earning card. 3x on gas, on online retail shopping. You have to be careful. Some things code as retail online, some things don't. And then 3x on, oh, what's the one I'm missing? It's a really common category. Completely slipped my mind. It also gives $7 a month towards Hulu or Disney or ESPN Plus. And since it's a no annual fee card and we get Hulu anyway, that's something we got before I even got into these cards. It's like, what is that, $84 a year, something like that, for free. So there's no harm in keeping it. Doesn't hurt anything. The Hilton Surpass card, I'm not going to go into that. I've done a whole separate video on Hilton things many times. It's issued by American Express, so it happens to be an Amex card, but it's really a Hilton card, so it's not even part of the discussion we're having today, in my mind. So take a look at the right side. We've got the two different Blue Business Plus cards, one for me, one for my wife. These cards, I don't see any reason to ever cancel them. They're no annual fee. They get 2x on everything up to 50,000 points a year. And they are the fallback plan. If I cancel all my other MR cards, these cards keep my points alive. In fact, that's the situation my wife's in right now. That's the only Amex card she has, and it's holding on to her 150, 200,000 MR points, something like that. Then we have the Business Gold card, and I'll get into that in just a little bit. I'll catch up on comments here just a little bit. Sam K talks about Russian airplanes. Don't fly on them. I agree. Sam K says, even trash bank cards have their uses. Unauthorized door entry, scooping poop out of your footwear, scraping ice off the windshield, spreading butter, etc. Yeah, that's true. Funny story. I actually have a good friend who worked as a locksmith for a while. He worked for like a locksmithing company. He wasn't the owner. He said frequently, as old-fashioned as it sounds, the best way to get into an apartment or a house that got locked out is just to use a credit card to jimmy the lock open. So I would give him my expired and canceled cards. I would give him, like, when you get a fake credit card in the mail that's like the XYZ card, this is what it might look like. I would give it to him, and he might get one or two uses out of it and then just throw it away. John says, for my use case, the Amex Gold is a point earning machine, and even more so now as the last couple days video coming. Ooh, that's good to know. I know about your Walmart neighborhood market tie-in, John, and if I had one of those, it might be a whole different equation. QC Man says, speaking of white lines, another use some have for bad credit cards. I don't understand that comment, Quality Control Man. I apologize. If you want to clarify, you can. If you want to just let it go, that's cool too. All right, so let's talk about that Business Gold card and what it does. So the Business Gold card earns 4 points per dollar on your top two categories. I'll come back to what those categories are in just a moment. And it has a $375 annual fee. Now, at the time I got it, it was not. I think it was still $295, but it has gone up in, I think, February 1st, it went up. There is a $20 a month business credit, which comes out to $240 per year. And that can be used on FedEx, Grubhub, or Staples. Well, really any office supply store. And there's probably one or two others I'm not thinking of. Basically, you make a purchase of $20 or more at one of those stores every month. They give you $20. Basically, I have a Staples in my town, and it's right next to everything. It's next to fast food. It's across the street from other places I shop. So it's right on the way. Once a month, I just pop in for 10 minutes, buy a $25 gift card for Amazon, dump that in my account. And my family uses Amazon enough that that's basically like legal tender currency. A little annoying to have to do that every month, but we do it. So if you give full value to that business credit, that's a net annual fee of $135 a year. Ready for some super nerdy math? So in order to overcome that $135 a year net annual fee, how much spending do I have to do on this card? Now I'm still in the first year and I got a sweet 150,000 point sign up bonus. So obviously year one, it's always going to be worth it. But let's think ahead, which comes up in, I think, November or December, to my year two decision. For the sake of this illustration, I'm going to value Amex points at 1.85 cents per point. I know this number is going to differ for everyone. That's kind of where I fall right now. I have cashed out my Amex points at 1 cent per point because I had the business platinum business checking combo. Unclear if I can still do that or not. Need some data points on that. So that would bring the average down. But then again, we flew to Europe and got like 9 cents per point. And I've done a whole lot of, not a whole lot, I've done a large handful of redemptions where I transferred like British Airways or something like that. Transfer to Hilton when there's a bonus going on, and get anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 cents per point. So I think for me, I really like corn. I think 1.85 is a good conservative valuation. And if anything, I'm a conservative kind of guy. Based on that number, I would need about 7,300 points to equal $135. I'm going to say, to do this exercise, I'm going to count it as 2x points per dollar because there is an opportunity cost. I could just put that spend on my Blue Business Plus card and get 2x. So I'm really only getting an extra 2x when I put spend on this card in my top two categories. So here's the break-even point. The break-even point comes to, you take the 7,300 points, you divide by 2 cents or 2 points per dollar, and that's $3,650 on those 4X categories. So I would have to spend $3,650 every year on those 4X categories just to break even on this card. What are those 4X categories? They are media advertising, like if you pay for advertising on Facebook, electronic goods, not real sure what that is, but I think, probably buying laptops and Best Buy and that kind of stuff. Restaurants, gas, transit. Transit would be your standard Ubers, taxis, buses, trains, ferries, that kind of stuff. And then wireless phones. So for a actual small business owner, and I mean, I do technically have a business because I make money from YouTube and whatnot, but for someone who works in a small business and is buying advertising, buying electronic supplies, traveling all over tarnation, like say a self-employed truck driver, for example, spending, thousands of dollars a month for wireless calls for you and your employees, that would make a lot of sense. But I'm just a regular old Joe, so it's mostly restaurants and gas for me are the only ones where I'm even going to come close to this. So is that worth doing? I'm going to say probably not. And frankly, I'm probably underselling the opportunity cost because I have lots of cards where I can get 3x or more on gas that either don't have an annual fee or I would be paying for the annual fee anyway. For example, my Wells Fargo autograph gets 3x on gas. I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong. I can get 3% cash back on gas on my Blue Cash every day. I keep my Citi Premier, which has a $95 annual fee, but I use that for other reasons, so I have it anyway. I can get 3x on gas. And if I take my Citi Custom Cash and put that towards gas, I'm getting 5x on gas. And then as for restaurants, well, there's about 73 different Chase cards that get 3x on restaurants, and several of those are no annual fee. So I think the opportunity cost is actually a little worse than what I have in my illustration here. So honestly, unless they throw a pretty generous retention offer at me, no. I don't think I'm going to keep the business gold once I hit my first anniversary at the end of this year. I'll catch up on comments now. Let's see. Quality Control Man says Amex Gold wouldn't be optimal for me because the majority of my grocery spend happens at Costco, so gold would mostly be a dining card, and there's lots of other dining card options. But it makes great sense for a situation like John R. I agree. John confirms everyone's situation is different, and that's the most important thing. Think about where you're shopping. John R. says, if I had a family, I would probably have a Costco membership, but being a single dude still, Walmart neighborhood market it is. Maybe we could get some sort of points and miles dating Discord going or something. Help a brother out. Sorry. Chad Pennycoff also reminds me that for gas, I can use tap to pay at my U.S. Bank with my U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve for 3x with a 1.5 redemption, which functionally is 4.5% cash back equivalent. Yep, and I do that sometimes. I do it sometimes at grocery stores too. Let's see. Best Buy have a MiFi box, which is a personal Wi-Fi hotspot with internet connection for around $800. Oh, okay. I don't think I'm away from home enough to justify that yet, but hopefully I'll get wildly successful and we'll need it in the near future. Thank you for the tip, Sam K. We'll make some floating hearts appear. All right, so probably dumping the business gold unless they throw a generous retention offer at me. Moving on. Let's talk about the American Express Blue Cash every day. Here's an interesting offer that's been hanging out on my Amex login page for a couple months now, and it goes to like the end of June, so I've got plenty of time to decide. I can upgrade my Blue Cash every day to a Blue Cash Preferred, and they're going to give me a $150 statement credit after spending $1,000. Well, that's pretty easy to do. And then that would upgrade me to 6% cash back at supermarkets and streaming instead of 3x. Also, it doesn't show here, but it does say they would still waive the annual fee in the first year. So I don't see any reason not to do that. I mean, that's a free $150. I did double check just in case, and they still have the $7 a month credit for Hulu, Disney, etc. So I wouldn't be losing out on that. So I'll probably take this free $150 that Amex is throwing at me when the time is right. Sam says, don't forget to smash the like button. It's totally free. Thank you for the reminder, Sam. Dropping me a super chat is also not free, but, you know, Anthony Venture figured out how to do it for 99 cents, so it doesn't cost a whole lot. I also want to point this out. Oh, the irony. This came up just last night. I was logging into my Amex account for the purpose of like making sure I remembered the modifiers and things correctly. And when I logged in on the main landing page, this came up. Extending your membership with us is easy, Douglas. This business card is for DUGROZ Reports. What they want me to do here is sign up for an additional business gold card. And you can see down here in the corner, they would give me 125,000 points after spending $10,000. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. That's a great deal. I already have the business gold, but from listening to Frequent Miler and Miles to Memories, they have said many times, if you get a targeted offer that says extend your membership, what that means is they're letting you get more than one of the same card and still get the sign-up bonus. So I did it. I filled out the information, and I had to fill out very little because, like I said, I was logged in. They're targeting me. It has my name right here. It has my business name right here. This wasn't just a random thing where I found it on a incognito browser. And at the bottom, it didn't say apply. It said accept this offer. Everyone's with me, right? This looks like a targeted offer where I'm guaranteed to get it, right? Right? Well, after I clicked that button, here's what it said. Because you have had or have the business gold card, you are not eligible to receive the welcome offer. And I'm like, what the crud, guys? I know it's all algorithms, but I like to think of it as a person behind the scenes just messing with me. It's like, I was logged in. You had my name. You know that I have the card, American Express. Why would you show me a targeted offer that change the sign-up bonus from 70,000 points to 125,000 points, get to the last screen, and then be like, nah, actually, we're not going to give you that offer. So that did tick me off a little bit. So back to the panoply of my Amex cards. This is what it looks like. The Ghostbuster symbol hasn't happened yet, but it will probably at the end of this year. I'll just end up with these Amex cards. Is that the last slide? Yes, it is. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing so my mouth will hopefully match my audio, and then I'll share my thoughts on the topic of the day here. So I guess what I'm saying is this, and this might be a little controversial, but just hear me out. In my situation, Amex is only good for sign-up bonuses. It's not a daily driver card. I'm not really using Amex very much. In fact, when I look at my Amex cards and just what spend I've put on them, it's very little. Now, my wife's Blue Business Plus card right now has I'm still in the first year offer where there's a 0% APR. So we have put a couple of our larger purchases on there because I mean, 2x Amex points is still decent. And I have a whole year to pay it off. So I can tuck that into a savings account or a money market, make 5% interest on it. You know, I have the money. It's just hanging out over here getting interest. So Amex is kind of like paying me 5% APY equivalent. So I use it a little bit, but other than that, I haven't put hardly any spend on Amex cards since the beginning of this year. You might remember I kind of declared my new strategy. It's kind of a soft strategy. It's not like dogmatic. Is a combination of cash back and hotel card points. And based on what I wrote down for how I'm traveling, I mean, that makes sense. Look at what I'm using. Your earnings should match what you're using. Now, it is worthwhile to take a few moments to think about, are there transfer partners that I would be using with my travel style? And for that, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to look at the Award Travel 101 transfer matrix to see that I'm missing out on. And I'll say that again because sometimes it's laggy. Let's check the chart to see if there's anything that I'm missing out on. So we're going to look at this column right here. This is the membership reward column, kind of the light green. Air Canada Aeroplan, I would use that, but I'm mostly only using it for my pay yourself back on the Aeroplan card, which is supposed to come from Chase. But even if I was going to use it to fly to Europe in the future, something like that, which I might, it's not like I'm missing out on other opportunities. I've got Chase points. I've got Capital One, which I might drop. But I've got lots of Chase points, so nothing there that I'm missing out on. I've used ANA. I know there's a hypothetical use case there, but it's just never panned out. I've never used Avianca. I've never used KrisFlyer. I've never used Aero Mexico. I could use Delta, but their Sky Pesos are hard to use. Flying Blue, KLM and Air France, great use case for me. I've used that to book Delta before. That's how I got to England. But look, it's not like I'm missing out. Even Wells Fargo has Flying Blues. I've got lots of other opportunities to earn Flying Blue miles. Virgin Atlantic, yep, I used that once, and that could be a good use case. But again, very promiscuous, lots of other opportunities there. I'm not really missing out. Asia Miles I've never used. Qantas I've never used. And even if I did, I've still got my, this is the Citi column, right? Yep, I've still got my Citi points. Then we get down here into the Avios, and as most of us know, if you have one Avios, that's what this little symbol is. You have any Avios, so yeah, good use case. I mean, I've used British Airways to fly on American more than once, but lots of opportunities to send points over to Avios. Never used Emirates, never used Etihad, never used Hawaiian, never used JetBlue, doesn't service my area. Never used Marriott. I wouldn't use Choice at 1 to 2 because Chase and Wells Fargo both transfer 1 to 2. Hilton at 1 to 2, and they often run a transfer bonus of at least 30%. That's the one unique transfer partner I would be missing out on, but I don't think I'm missing out on it a ton. I love Hilton's. because I can buy their points at half a cent each. So if I lean into that cashback strategy, I wouldn't really be missing out on very much. So there's my take. Basically, what I'm declaring for my situation, Amex is for sign-up bonuses. And I know that's not what Amex wants us to do, but that's where they come in handy. And then I'll save it for that, every other year to Europe or overseas. Catching up on the comments here. John says he grabbed the exact same offer on the gold 1 year ago. Great offer. QC Man says that's a good deal. So that's referring to either the Blue Cash Everyday upgrade or the gold targeted offer that I wasn't allowed to have. Chad, I did talk about the computer fund at the very beginning of this video. John says I live in a metro area, so it's pretty easy. Don Kim says hello. Hi, Don. John wants the Biz Gold at 125, but can't pull off the 10K spend in 3 months. That's a good point. Chad Pennycuff says Amex isn't worth the hassle, in my humble opinion. Yeah, there's a lot of hassle. I mean, I thought about even, the Hilton, the new Hilton business card, because 5X Hilton on everything is pretty good. Not great, but it's pretty good. But I'm like, I don't want to be buying gift cards all the time in addition to my Surpass. I'll pass. John confirms, yeah, that's trash. Trash that they dangled this offer in front of me and then pulled the rug out from under me. Let's see. Sam K wants me to give them a taste of their own medicine. Not really sure how to do that. Chad Pennycuff says platinum is a keeper. The value proposition is to jump through coupon hoops to earn free lounges. And I will grant that. The one thing that I'm missing out on with my strategy is premium lounges. Unless it happens to be in a place where there's a Sapphire Lounge, because at least as of right now, I'm keeping the Chase Sapphire Reserve for travel credit, opportunities to use the portal if needed as a backup plan. And they have Sapphire Lounges, which I did do the one in LaGuardia earlier this month. And that was very nice. But I am missing out on, if I end up canceling my Venture X and I don't have a platinum or something along those lines, I am missing out on the premium lounges like the Capital One lounges and the Centurion lounges. How much would that have mattered here? Well, I was in Charlotte Douglas when I flew home from Virginia, and I didn't get to go in their Centurion lounge. But other than that, my Eclipse trip, no lounge. My Peoria trip, that was just driving. Chicago, that was just driving. Wisconsin in the cabin, that was just driving. Labor Day Creator Meetup, I think there's a Centurion lounge in Vegas, but I was anxious to get to the meetup, so I don't even know if I would have used it. So as little flying travel as I do, probably 3 to 5 times a year by plane, I can probably live without a Centurion lounge or a Capital One lounge. Let's see. Chad says I would get the Schwab Platinum. That way you can cash out at 1.1. Yeah, the question is, I would have to run the math on that extra 0.1 because I can, at least last I checked, even though I canceled my business platinum, I can still cash out at 1 cent per point as long as I move it over to my business checking account. So, I have to figure out, you're cashing out this much and paying the annual fee on the Schwab Platinum to get an extra 0.1. Might be worth it, might not. I think the best strategy would be keep doing sign-up bonuses, hoard your points for multiple years. Let's say, I'll just make something up. In 2026, I get the Schwab Platinum, cancel all the points out, cash them all out at 1.1. Then a year later, cancel the Schwab Platinum, etc., etc. Chad says the Platy is free with coupons. Sure it is. Sure it is, yeah. I've run the math before. It's for me, it's hassle and it changes my spending behavior. If I was a high roller like Luke or Chad, yeah, then I would say it is. But It just, the math after year one just doesn't work for me. Okay. Well, let's close out the main event. Thank you for listening in. And we'll take our intermission here, our biology break. Some of you will get a commercial. Some of you will just stare at the background. I apologize if you stare at the background. Sit tight. I've got more content. I will be back in 90 seconds. One second for the asthma break. Excuse me. I'm back. Okay. I've been thinking while I was using the bathroom of that comment you made, Chad. It looks like you have a follow-up comment here. Coupons are inherently designed to change your spending habits. Nothing wrong with that. It's a fundamental part of marketing. The question is, does coupon value and hassle factor outweigh the annual fee? Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what I was thinking. And I'm not going to get mad or throw chairs or anything if other people have a platinum card or any high annual fee card. I opened up a Chase Sapphire Reserve because, by the way, it came in the mail last week. Because I thought it was worth doing. I didn't open it. I upgraded my CSP to a CSR. Here's a good analogy. Let's say you move to a new town, you don't own a car, and you take the bus or Uber or a taxi to get to work every day. You've got a 10-mile commute. Should you buy a car? Maybe. If you bought a car to drive to work every day or 5 days a week, that would save you not having to pay for Uber or having to pay for the taxi or pay for bus tickets. I don't say I bought a car, but my car was free after credits because it'll only take 3 years of saving on not having to pay for the bus or Uber, and the car will pay for itself. Well, I don't think a lot of us say our car is free, but a lot of us do say the investment of a car is worth doing. I have a car. I drive to work. I work from home most of the time, but 1 day a week I drive to work. I drive to church. I drive to Walmart. I drive to restaurants and grocery stores. I don't take an Uber everywhere. Someone that lives in downtown Manhattan or Los Angeles might say that's not an investment worth making because I have to pay for parking and the car taxes are outrageous. So there's lots of factors that go into whether or not you should buy a car. In a similar manner, there's lots of factors that go into whether or not you should get the Amex Platinum or any premium credit card that has a high annual fee. I do think a lot of people don't think through the fact that you're having to prepay for those advantages you get, much like when you buy a car, you prepay for the convenience and even the value to help you go to work and earn money. Um, I don't let my family budget pay for any of my credit card expenses. So when my first annual fee hits on my Sapphire Reserve, um, I'm going to take the $550 out of my travel savings account and use it to pay that annual fee. And that's going to be a little bit ouchy, even though I've already used most of my $300 travel credit. The fact of the matter is, I still have to send a check or direct deposit or whatever for $550 to Chase to pay for the CSR. And yeah, I'm getting the travel credits. I'm getting the enhanced portal earnings. I'm getting great insurance protection. I'm getting a lot of value, but I'm still paying for it. And I bet you a lot of people, if they had a designated travel account and they had to pay for all of their travel from it, even their meals while on vacation, if they had to write a check out of that account to American Express for $695 annual fee every year, I bet a lot of them would think it through a little more carefully. Let me catch up on the comments here. Chad says he gets enough value to offset 2 annual fees. John says he gets great value from Delta cards. Chad says, yep, year 2 at the Platy hits some people pretty hard. Cesar Joel has arrived. Happy to see you live, brother. Hey, Cesar, do you know the lady I sat next to on the plane flying from Charlotte to Des Moines? Cesar says, I know I missed the post, but I'd like to know your favorite. Oh, I'll come back to that question. Yes. Tom DeCaius says, something that's worked for me is to use the $300 travel credit, then downgrade the card to a Freedom. The next month, upgrade a different Freedom. Tucking that away. Thank you, Tom. Tom says you get the annual fee refund balance and then can use the $300 travel credit on a new Sapphire card. Two questions. How long have you been doing that? And 2, has Chase ever given you grief about that? Rem GB is arrived. Don't think we've met, Rem GB. Happy to have you on board. Thanks for watching. The biggest issue with the Amex Platy is they do not allow any guests into lounges. So for folks with family, it's not all useful anymore. Yeah, I run into that. I have a family of 4, wife, myself, 2 kids. So it's just the wrong amount. Like with CSR, I get 2 guests. So it's like I'm missing 1 guest. But again, I don't fly enough that it's really a big deal. And if I fly international, I'm going to buy a business class ticket anyway, and we're all going to get into the lounge. That's why I've been keeping the Venture X and will keep it till the end of this year before my annual fee hits. But I might actually, because Venture X gives you free authorized users, the Altitude Reserve does not. I might drop the Venture X though, just for convenience sake. I don't like using their portal. I haven't even figured out how I'm going to use it this year yet. And then pay for an authorized user on my CSR, which will be a little ouchy, but might be worthwhile. QC Man asks, if I renew the CSR next year, am I going to use Pay Yourself Back to pay for the annual fee? What's the rate? Is it 1 1/4? Probably not. If it was 1 1/2, I would, but at 1 1/4, I don't think I will. I think I would rather use my points in a different way. Although one could argue if I'm getting anything better than 1 cent per point, I should, because I can earn lots of Chase points. I'll have to think about that one. Dong says creating a separate bucket or line item for annual fees is a good idea. On the Chase upgrade, downgrade CSR question, Tom says, I've done it twice and no issues. I wait until the statement closes on downgrade before I upgrade to a different card. I might experiment with that either later this year or next year. QC Man says he thinks it is 1.25 to pay yourself back on the annual fee. Chad says, Amex credits enhanced my life. Walmart Plus, I'd honestly pay for that now. Coupon 1,000%. It worked and got me hooked. I saved more than $14.95 a month on Walmart prices versus Publix. I'm gonna have to try that out. I have it free with the Business Gold. I haven't tried it yet. My wife normally does an in-person Walmart pickup. I'd have to think about whether delivery would be worth it. Even though the fee would be free, we would still have to tip. Being single, the Platy's perfect for me, says John. Got to get you that points and miles dating app again. All right. Let's transition to the community tab. So every week on Friday, I post a question on the community tab with a picture, and you can guess what the picture is, and you can ask me anything, and I will try to address it in Saturday's live stream. So I'll share the picture real quick here. There it is. So the goal was to guess where that picture came from. And let's see if anybody guessed that part. I don't think anyone did. Nope. This is, unless you did it like since the live stream started. And if you did, I apologize. This is a statue of Robert Wadlow. It is in Alton, Illinois. That's where my Hampton Inn was when I went to see the eclipse. And Robert is considered to be the world's tallest man, at least in recorded history. He was almost 9 feet tall before he died, 8 feet 11 inches. For reference, I'm just a little under 6 feet tall. I'm about 5'10", 5'11" with shoes on, if you're wondering. So that's what the picture was. All right. Top to bottom, QC Man wrote this. I noticed both you and Kiki Adventures gave the Sapphire Lounge a mediocre score for their food. Makes me wonder if my junior high lunch ladies are in charge of their kitchen. What do you think Chase could do to improve the menu, and how would you rank the food at elite lounges in order? Okay, I'll start with what they could do to improve. Okay, they had fish and it was cold. So just the speed between making and delivering needs to be improved. So just warmer food would help. And then there was a cheeseburger that was just kind of flavorless. I think honestly, just they're being a little cheap because it's a mass marketing thing. They're buying like Sam's Club ground beef for their cheeseburgers instead of, like grade A prime cut type stuff is the impression that I got. Yeah, and they just took too long. So if they upgraded just the quality of their meat a little bit, have like fountain pop. They had like those little miniature cans of Coke and Sprite. Again, that's just being cheap because you're trying to adjust people's behavior, that kind of stuff. I'd like to have more choices. And then ranking the food at elite lounges: Chase, Capital One, Amex, Delta in order. I'm not the person that should be answering this, quality control man. I apologize because let's see. I've been to one Chase Lounge. I've been to one Capital One Lounge. I've been to an Amex Centurion Lounge 2 or 3 times. And I've been to a Delta Lounge once. I would put the Amex Centurion Lounge first, Delta second, Capital One third, and Chase fourth. That's just kind of spitballing, though. Thanks for asking. Jimmy James asked this question, which is very pertinent to today's topic. Which credit card ecosystem would you replace Amex with, and why? So what I'm doing right now is a combination of cash and hotel points. The thing is, if you have an ecosystem that lets you cash out for a penny a piece or more, that can be part of that strategy. Now, I know I've said on one occasion I was able to cash out Amex points for a penny each, even though I've canceled my business platinum. I don't know if that'll continue. If Amex just changed their policy that you can always cash out for a penny each, no matter which card you had on MR points, that would actually change the equation a bit. I would be less hesitant to use them regularly. But as it is, in terms of points earnings, it's mostly Citi and Chase. So right now, I'm using my Chase Freedom Flex for dining. That's the current quarterly category. and they always bonus dining up by 2 on top of your 1x on everything. So functionally, I'm getting 7 points per dollar on dining on a no annual fee card. That's hard to beat. So I'm using Chase for dining right now. Second most often used is gas, and right now that's going on my Citi Custom Cash, and I'm getting 5x on gas. I could use the Business Gold, but for the same reason I just mentioned, I'd rather have 5x Citi points, which could be 5% cash back. And if needed, I can transfer them 1 to 2 to Choice Hotels and lots of other transfer partners, like I don't remember which ones it were, but they're pretty promiscuous with the general ones, and everyone has Flying Blue. So right now, Citi and the Citi Premier is getting some of my spend. Like if I do actually want to use a grocery card, of course, my U.S. Bank Altitude Reserve gets 3x on everything, 4.5% cash back equivalent. So not everything, but everything that's tap to pay. And boy, I'd say 80% of things I buy have tap to pay as an option. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm also occasionally putting spend for big ticket things that are not a category. Like my kids have to pay tuition, private school. So when I make that payment in a month or two, some of it's going to go on my Hilton Surpass card because I'm working towards spending $15,000 so I can get a free night certificate there. Sean Credit replied to Jimmy James's comment, said, I can't think of one, meaning a replacement for Amex. They're in a league of their own, honestly. Interest is your choice, but in my opinion, American Express is the Cadillac of credit cards. And you know what, Sean? If I was flying overseas more than once or twice a year, I would agree with you. But right now I'm flying overseas every other year once. So I'm not getting rid of my MR points. I'm not dumping them. It's just that I'm using them for sign-up bonuses and then saving them for that big travel every other year. Good questions, Jimmy, James, and Sean. I appreciate that. CWS asks this question. I have the Wells Fargo Built card. How easy do you think it would be to prepay a hotel stay on rent day to earn 4x? I don't have Built, and I've never used it. So if anyone knows, feel free to make a comment here. My guess would be it's not that easy unless you're going to do a non-refundable purchase, like through Expedia or the hotel itself, because like I've booked IHG points with cash before, or points and cash combined, and Hilton's. And I know in both of those examples, if you get a refundable, like a member's rate, they don't charge the card until you stay. At least that's been my experience. Let me know if your experience is different. So if you did a non-refundable charge and wanted it to land on the first of the month, that should work. But if it's refundable, like a member rate, I don't think that's going to work, unfortunately. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I want to give an honest answer. But again, I've never tried it. That's just my best guess. Icarus, also known as Feather Pony, asks this question. Why don't you collaborate with Bank Account Bonus Central? While he talks about bank account bonuses, he would complement your credit card content very well. You have a lot in common. And then he lists 4 reasons why we would have a lot in common and says, at least reach out to him to tell you that I sent you his way. I had never heard of Bank Account Bonus Central until that comment was posted late last night. And I did look at his channel and looked up a few videos. And we do both have kind of the middle-aged dad vibe in the suburbs going on. I don't know if he lives in the suburb or not. So maybe I'll watch a little more and we'll see where that goes. Thanks, Icarus. All right. And then earlier in the conversation, my brother from another mother, Cesar, asked me a question that he said he was going to put in the community tab. So I'll go back to that. What's your favorite airline transfer partner and why? I'm going to give 2 answers. I know that's kind of non-committal, but I will give the best value and then I'll give the most common. The most common is British Airways. There have been probably 4 to 5 times I've used British Airways to book domestic American flights. And I live in Des Moines, Iowa, which is not a hub for anyone, but of the legacy carriers, American has the most destinations. They fly to New York, LaGuardia. They fly to Boston. They fly to Dallas. They fly to Phoenix. There's a direct flight. My in-laws live in that area. do they fly to Denver? I don't remember if they do or not. They fly to Chicago, which I don't like to fly out of Chicago, but just lots of choices. They have a flight to Miami once a week on Saturdays. So they fly to Charlotte, Douglas, North Carolina regularly. So using British Airlines miles to book cheap domestic economy, which they fly directly to Washington Reagan. For example, when we go to Washington, D.C. this summer, it was, I think, 22,500 points per person for a business class ticket, which really isn't too bad. Now, that's domestic business, so it's just kind of your big lean back seat. It's not a lie flat herringbone or anything like that, but it's still nice. Since it's the family, I treated myself. If I was flying alone, I would do economy, which you can get for anywhere from like 7,000 to 12,500, something like that. So the one I like the most in terms of like just I can use it easily is British Airways with the American backdoor booking. In terms of the airline transfer partner with the best value, that would be Flying Blue, so Air France or KLM. Admittedly, I've only used it once, but the one time I used it, the value was tremendous. I think I don't remember if I booked a Delta flight with them once or if I just thought about it and then canceled. I do have kind of an annoying thing going on where when I go to the creator meetup in this coming Labor Day, late August, on the way there, I'm flying Southwest via Denver. On the way back, I had booked it from New Orleans to Minneapolis to Des Moines, and they canceled that flight and rebooked me with a layover in Detroit. And they've changed that flight like 10 times. And they're either crappy times where the layover is way too short and I'll risk missing my connection, or it's like 6 hours. I can't find that happy medium of 2 to 3 hours where I can get into a lounge, enjoy it, and then leave without hanging out forever. So that's kind of annoying me. But such are the struggles of a guy who lives in a small market airport like Des Moines, Iowa, where you don't have a lot of choices. Sometimes you get kind of screwed over, for lack of a better term. All right, catching up with the comments. Or no, I'm sorry. Did I finish my community tab comments? QC Man, CWS, Jimmy James, Sean Credit, and Icarus. Yes, that's all of it, unless you posted it after the fact. If you do, I apologize, and I will loop back. Just do it again, and I'll answer it next week. 40 people are on board. I think we determined that 47 concurrent viewers live was my all-time record, so maybe we can get back up there again. All right, I'm going to try to catch up with the comments, and then I do have some time permitting topics that I'd like to get through. All right, I think this is where we're at. Nope, got to back up here. All right, Sam K, my British friend, says, why doesn't American get ideas from UK such as public transport, chocolate, general food, NHS, and availability of weapons, Mal Mulf, which Americans would probably benefit from? I don't know what Mal Mulf means. All those other things are pretty controversial topics, and I don't want half of my audience to hate me, so I'm going to pass. But for the less controversial ones, chocolate and food, I would agree with you. In fact, my very brief time residing in the United Kingdom, it was like 11 days, I felt like I was the healthiest I've been in my adult life. And I don't know if that's the air quality or the food or some of each. Chad Pennycuff says, Amex Uber credits made me think differently about driving to the airport. For my monthly trip to Detroit for a week, it's cheaper and easier to ride share there and back versus miles, tolls, gas, and parking. Yeah, anytime I go to the Des Moines airport to fly out for like a 3-day, 4-day, 5-day weekend, the parking is pretty cheap. Some of you would probably think this is like hilariously cheap. I'm thinking it's around $8 to $10 a day for economy parking at the airport. And if you give me a moment, I'll get the exact figure. It was $35, and I parked on Friday morning. So I had all day Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So 5 days. 35 divided by 5 is 7. $7 a day, including tax, which isn't too bad. So if it's less than a week, it's actually cheaper for me to park, but that's just my personal situation. If it was like 8 days or more, I would probably take public transportation, Uber, something like that. Chad gives more data. I think we've beat that horse to death, though. Chad thinks Amex lounges are greater than Delta, which is greater than Escape, which is greater by the lounge at X Priority Pass. Sam asks, why do Americans call it gas they put into vehicle? Isn't it a liquid? Okay, I'll start calling it petrol if you want. Ironically, Amex seems the best for overseas flights and worse for overseas purchases, says Chad. Ironic since they're named Amex. Interestingly, I was doing image searches to find a picture of the Amex Platinum for this presentation, and I saw a card that I didn't recognize at all, and I thought, like, is Amex coming out with a new card? It looked exactly like the Blue Cash Everyday, except it was all silver. And then I realized it was an American Express card that is issued, I don't know if it's issued in, but it gives you rewards in whatever the currency of Bangladesh is. So who knew that Amex has a card specifically for Bangladeshi spenders? Ironic, huh? It looked exactly like this, except it was like a silver gray color. I know Amex has a big presence in Canada too. On the topic of your built card and getting the first of the month, Chad says, not Chad's Money Myth, but regular old Chad says, what about charging a deposit for an upcoming stay? Cesar says, thanks for answering my question. Chad Pennycuff says, call ahead and find out related to prepaying. Chad Pennycuff says, MCO, I'm pretty sure that's Orlando, is $14 a day now. John R. never parks at the airport, always uses Uber, too much crime. I find that the Des Moines airport has very little crime. Interestingly, I flew out of a very small airport once. It was, what's the town that's just a little west of Chicago, like a mid-sized town? Rockford, Illinois. And it was an Allegiant type airlines. It was either Spirit, Allegiant, Frontier, something like that. Their parking was free. If you park in their long-term lot, they charge nothing. I suppose it's because very few people fly out of that airport, and it's just a strategy to get people in. Eastern Iowa Airport, Cedar Rapids, I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. At one point, their long-term parking was free, or it might have been like $3 a day, something like that. The Savage of Wall Street. Well, look who showed up. I haven't seen you in quite a long time. The future of Amex is bright. What's up, my man? My wife got that $300K Amex Platinum promo. Holy cow, $300K? For $20K spent in 3 months, we had to pay taxes. It was perfect. Savage. What's up? That is awesome. Okay, let's move on to the time permitting section of the live stream, and then we'll be done here. A success story for an apprentice. So you may remember I tried to get my sister to get a Hilton card. She did ultimately sign up for the Surpass back when it had a 170,000 point bonus back in January. She met her minimum spend on that. And then she had booked a couple Hilton stays on points. Now, none of these are going to excite anyone. These were all like Hampton Inns or Hilton Garden Inns, just because they live in Illinois and their kids go to college in Chicago, or not Chicago, Ohio. If you ever heard of Cedarville University, I think it's not too far from Dayton. So they road trip over there whenever they have like a concert, because they both are in music and that kind of stuff. Graduation concerts, that kind of thing. So they had already used it once to get a free night somewhere. And she texted me, said, hey, I've got a question about Hilton. Can you call me? And when I was free, I called her, and she's like, so would it make sense to buy Hilton points? Because you told me they're half a cent each, but you know, I see here there's a hotel that's 30,000 points. but the cash price is like $270. And I'm like, well, let's do the math, sister. Divide by 100, and you've got a cent per point. Divide that by 2. You've got, you could buy $300 worth of points for $150, and instead of paying $275 at the hotel, you could use $150 to buy points. You don't have to pay taxes. And she's like, yeah, that's a good idea. You'll have to show me how to do that in a week or two when we get back home. I'm like, the plan is working perfectly. She's like, I really like not having to pay for my hotel rooms. So I think I've got her a little bit hooked. She's like, let me know if there's another credit card that you would recommend. Not now, but maybe in the summer, something like that. So it was just fun to bring someone else on board. And then I'll show you one more picture here. This is completely and totally frivolous. I'll actually do another one while I'm waiting for the picture to load. I was going to briefly mention some videos that I have coming. I didn't do a live stream last week because my kids and I went to the Iowa State Cyclones spring football game. It was a dreary day and not a very fun time to sit out in the bleachers, but good time with the kids still, so I don't regret it. But that's why I didn't have a live stream last week. But 2 weeks ago, I did a video about why I upgraded my Sapphire Preferred to the Sapphire Reserve, and it has now arrived. Here it is. So it's time to do a dedicated video on that topic and talk about why I did that upgrade. So I'm planning to do that, just haven't got around to it yet. I've been pretty busy lately. When I came back from Virginia, real life caught up with me. I had a conference I had to go to for 2 days for my job here in the Des Moines area, and that put me behind on my emails and job tasks, so I just haven't had time for YouTube since then. I apologize. My Hilton gift card trick worked. Buying a gift card in first quarter and redeeming it second quarter. This card has already been exhausted, so feel free to try to steal the numbers. It's not going to matter. But I just wanted to make a video confirming that I was able to go to a Hampton Inn and charge some on a gift card, some on my Surpass, knock out 2 of those quarterly credits at the same time. The 2 trip breakdowns of how I paid for them. Southern Illinois as well as Virginia, West Virginia. There's a really cool waterfall out there in West Virginia called Blackwater Falls. I would have gone just for that. And then I'm thinking about doing a dedicated video on the Aeroplan card. I kind of did one touching on it, but now that the Pay Yourself Back has been extended to the end of the calendar year, I am using that card like a bandit. Lots of Aeroplan card usage for me, and I love it, and I've explained why I love it, but why not let the whole world know why I love it. I got to kind of wrap things up here. We're almost to an hour and a half. But hey, I've got a lot of things to talk about. Totally frivolous thing here. So you know how I call when I do a trip that's like a 3-day, 4-day getaway, I call it a RIP trip. And I say R stands for rental, like a rental car. I stands for INN, I-N-N, meaning hotel or lodging. P is for plane. Pretty self-explanatory, airplane. I actually saw this picture while driving 2 weeks ago, almost 3 weeks ago now. Rip Rap Fish and Wildlife Management Area. And I'm like, oh, sign, are you wanting me to do the rap about RIP trips and what they stand for? I've seen this before once, but I didn't get a picture the first time I saw it a couple years ago. That's right along the Mississippi River in Illinois, just north of Alton. So yeah, that's totally dumb, I realize. But I do have a video out there if you want to search for it on my channel where I actually rap about a RIP trip. For some reason, it was not a very popular video. All right. Another update is I did a video and talked on my live streams about this really convoluted retention offer I had from Citi on my Citi Premier card. And it was you have to spend $1,000 every month. The numbers are on the back. You have to spend $1,000 every month for 3 months to get the retention offer. And the retention offer is that they would credit me $95, which would cancel out the annual fee, and give me 1,000 Citi thank you points on top of it. except it wasn't $1,000 every month. It was $1,000 every rolling 30-day period starting on like the 14th of each month. So I have now met that, but the current 30-day period doesn't actually end until May 14th. But I have spent more than $1,000 since April 15th. I did it with some strategic gift card buying and paying for some medical bills. And I realized with things like medical bills, you can get 2x everywhere, and I knocked it down to 1x. But given the retention offer, it was worth doing. I will keep you posted and let you know if they actually honor that. I am a little concerned because the 2 times I called, well, the first time I called, it seemed like they had no idea what they were talking about. And the second time was a little better, but the fact that they wouldn't give it to me in writing was a little concerning. But hey, it'll make a good video either way. Lastly, I wrote down tornado. So if you were watching the JP Knowledge live stream last night, I mentioned in the comment section that we were dodging tornadoes here in Iowa. There was a area near Omaha, Nebraska. I think it was one of the western suburbs called Elkhorn that got smashed by a tornado badly. And we're talking like leveling houses type of tornadoes. And of course, tornadoes go west to east. And you know what's directly west of Omaha? Iowa. So those storms did make their way from Nebraska into Iowa. A misconception I think people have is that a tornado is like a hurricane where you just draw a line like all the way across the state. That's not the case. A tornado just pops up within a storm system, and most of the time they just touch down, go like a couple blocks or a quarter mile, then pop back up again. It's if you ever played the old game Sim City, it was kind of like that, even though that's an exaggeration. Sometimes it's fun to click the button and destroy your city. I'm not saying there's never been tornadoes that wipe out like an entire city. That has happened, but that's extremely rare. Most of the time, a tornado is just like touch down, knock out a couple houses or trees, pop back up. And of course, most of the Midwest is just open farmland. So most of the time, it just touches down an open field and doesn't do a lot of damage or takes out a corn crib or something like that. Here in central Iowa, we did have some bad storms last night. My kids were at a vocal and band concert at their school. Unfortunately, when the high school group was singing, they got like their last 3 songs cut off, and the administrator got up stage, said, "Sorry, folks, bad weather. We have to evacuate. Go home immediately." So they didn't get to finish their concert, which was a bit of a bummer. And I'm tired because we were up to like midnight tracking those storms, but it never affected me personally. There was a little bit of a scare. The Doppler radar technology has gotten so good that they can pinpoint it down to like a city block now almost. And there was one of those really like bright pink cells, if you're from the Midwest or Tornado Alley, you know what I'm talking about, on the radar, like directly south of our neighborhood coming north. Well, more like northeast. So we did go to the basement for a while just as a precaution. It didn't touch down, fortunately. Unfortunately, there are some people we know about 10 miles from here. There was a neighborhood where a tornado touched down, and there was at least one family in our church that had like a couple trees taken out, siding ripped off, their front window was blown out. Not like the whole house was leveled, but just a lot of damage. And sadly and ironically, that same family had their house hit by a tornado and like their garage and living room torn off back in the mid 80s. So 40 years later, they got hit by another tornado. So, but I'm fine. We're fine. No damage. We don't even have any limbs down where I am. It was just rain and lightning. All right. Let me catch up with the comments, and then we'll do our closing procedures here. Clairvoyant is on board. Hi, Clairvoyant. Says, I would easily trade Amex for U.S. Bank these days. I can buy my travel with the cash back the U.S. Bank provides me. I pay effectively no annual fees with my U.S. Bank credit cards. Chad Pennycuff says, DUGROZ got me on the U.S. Altitude Reserve train. Loving it. That's good to know. Glad that I can have a little bit of influence. Clairvoyant says they always give me retention offers. They've also given me retention offers, always enough to cover the net annual fee. Sam has some questions about the autocorrect section on Samsung devices. I don't know anything about that. Cesar says, I don't mind buying Hilton points at half a cent each. That fifth night free minus taxes can add a lot of value, plus the credits. QC Man says, don't forget the tornado talk. Check. Savage of Wall Street asks what microphone I'm using. As of right now, I'm using the blue microphone by Yeti. The Yeti blue microphone. It's like the same microphone that everyone starts out with on YouTube. I'll hold it up here. I have received some advice recently from a friend, and there may be an upgrade in the near future. Stay tuned on that. If you know, you know. I hope that means it's working okay, and I hope it doesn't mean that there's a problem. If there's a problem, let me know. But again, the technology fund is growing. It's up to $690-ish. I got to get up to somewhere between 800 and 1,000 to get my laptop. That's priority number 1. And then priority number 2 or 3, I'm not sure what order, is some sound equipment upgrade and probably a new cell phone, because I'm totally fine with my iPhone 8, but someone pointed out and a couple people agreed it doesn't take very great pictures. And when I did try to live stream from the field, it was dicey. Brian Jackson, who also lives in the same town I do, says siren. Oh, there's another siren. Yeah, that's how last night was. Just sirens would go off, stop. There'd be a tornado warning. It would expire. It would come back on. We were up till after midnight. Brian also says, fun fact, the United Kingdom gets around 30 to 50 tornadoes a year. John says it was interesting weather in the Midwest for sure last night. Looks more on tap this afternoon tonight. No. Heather, welcome aboard, Heather. Says, glad everyone is okay. Don't think I've seen you on here before. Glad to have you on board. Robert Jarrell, who's another diehard. Thanks for being a diehard, Robert. And like I said, anyone wants to join as a member, $3 a month, cancel anytime. That helps with my technology fund. Super chats like John did also help with the technology fund. Trying to think of a good tie-in. I can't think of one right now. I don't know. My cell phone bill is for my kids. They use a really cheap plan, $15 a month. Say 5 people donate, that'd be $3 each. So maybe there's some inspiration. Robert says, do you ever use other cards through Apple Pay other than US Bank Altitude Reserve when the multipliers are high? I'm using mostly the Altitude Reserve, the Amex Gold, and the custom cash for everything that way. Yeah, I do, just for convenience purposes. After all, when I broke out of jail at the beginning of this month, I had to use my mobile wallet because they confiscated my wallet. I've got my new business cash card from State Farm on here, which gives 3x on certain things and is 0% APR. I've got my American Express Blue Cash every day. I've got my Aeroplan card. I've got my Wells Fargo Autograph and the Altitude Reserve. I think I can hold this up because it doesn't show numbers except the top card. I don't know if that's even visible. So there's my Apple Wallet right now. The Altitude Reserve is the default card. And I've got $97 in cash. So, yeah, I do occasionally, but it's just for convenience. Avery, welcome aboard, Avery. Don't recognize you. Glad to have you on board here. Do you think the Altitude Reserve annual fee will increase soon? Not soon, like not within the next 12 months. I could see it happening in the next 2 to 4 years. And I think what they would do is keep it mostly the same and shoot for kind of like a net annual fee of right around that $75 to $100. Let's just say, as an example, they upped it from $400 to $500, but they increased their travel credit from $325 to $425. Excuse me, $400. They increased from $325 to $400. So the old net annual fee would be $75. The new net annual fee would be $100. And then they would give us something new to offset it. Like, I don't know what it would be. Maybe like I think it would make a lot of sense for them to give us 3x on dining, whether or not you use tap to pay, because they have the dining credit. It just sort of fits the theme of the card. Remember that most people who have the altitude reserve probably aren't diehard maximizers like us. It's probably just the loyal US Bank customers who are some of their highest earning customers. So you've got, your stereotypical 65-year-old recently retired couple who, makes $250,000 a year and has $1 million in the bank. They probably go out to eat a lot and they may not want to use tap to pay. So for me, it makes all the sense in the world for the altitude reserve to make 3x on dining, period, whether or not you use tap to pay. But that's just me. Sam K says he's had 2 unskippable advertisements with this live stream. Well, I apologize, Sam, mostly, but also that's what helps me make money. So sorry, not sorry. Thank you so much for bearing with it. When I get my technology going, maybe I will learn how to live stream through StreamYard, or what's the one that has the duck logo or something like that. That's not really I haven't explored it yet, and I'm just going to kind of put those things together. Once I get a MacBook or something along those lines, I'll try my other options. But with my current setup, where I actually live stream through YouTube's own proprietary stuff, there's only 2 options. It's turn on the monetization or turn it off. Those are the only 2 options. And they don't let you pick where the breaks go until it's done processing, and it takes 24 hours to process. Well, when do most people watch the video? It's either live or within the first 24 hours. So I have control. I can turn off monetization, but functionally, I don't really have control. Either monetize and get whatever it is, or you turn it off and don't get anything. So sorry. Robert Jarrell says, I need to cancel that State Farm card. It's supposed to give 3x on all insurance, but I've tried premiums from 3 other insurers this month, and they post as 1x. Ooh, I have a data point on that because I thought the same thing, Robert. Are you new to the card? So I paid, this is confusing because they both have the word farm in it. I have the State Farm card. I paid for my parents' renter's insurance, which is with Farm Bureau, and it's only like $100 every 6 months because they don't have a lot of things to insure with renter's insurance. But that premium I paid for on the card, and it only rang up as 1x. And I was like, oh, that stinks. It's supposed to ring up as 3x. But then I remembered on my Cash Plus card from US Bank, sometimes they group transactions together and then give you a bonus. Not always, but sometimes. Well, sure enough, like 2 weeks later, they posted bonus points to the account for 2x that was the exact right amount to make it effectively 3x. So keep an eye on things, and within the next statement or the statement after that, see if it gives you a bonus. You might have to manually track it. It might shake out in the long run. QC Man says, I could see the altitude reserve eliminating dining credit and going back to just being for travel. And that would be okay, but I like it better with the dining credit. Because what I do is, to help offset the annual fee, I will use it on family dining. So effectively what I'm doing is writing a check from my travel budget to my family budget for $400 to cover the annual fee. And then I use it for dining and get those purchases free. That's dining I would do anyway, not while I'm out on the road. And then my family budget pays it back to the travel budget. Now, this year it happened so quickly, it netted out before I even got to the end of my first or second statement. So I just wrote a check for $75 from travel savings to my family budget. Clairvoyant says, no, US Bank is saving face at the moment with the mobile wallet deductible. So he doesn't think it's going to change. Robert says, I've had it for over a year. I'll let you know. Oh, mobile wallet debacle. I got you, Clairvoyant. Okay. Sam says, it's a shame YouTube won't let you play records during the live stream. They'll let me, but if it's a copyrighted record, they will take away my monetization, which I don't want. So if it was like really old classical music that's in the public domain, I would maybe be okay, but I'd have to experiment because I don't even know if I would trust the YouTube algorithm. I've read things where other people have said they've played music that's in the public domain on YouTube and it still gets a copyright strike. And that gets a little tricky because let's say, for example, you play the Blue Danube. Well, that was a terrible voice crack. My singing career is over, guys. The song is old enough that it's in the public domain, but let's say it's recorded by the Boston Pops in 1974. That specific performance is still copyright protected. So I don't know how that would work out. Chad Pennycuff says, I've bought royalty-free music for streams and it still gets a copyright strike. Yeah, I had that once too on my other channel, DUGROZ, where Incompetech is the name of the website. And there's some guy, I think like everybody uses him. In fact, if you go to DUGROZ Nostalgia, there's a song that sounds like a train song. It's called Bama Country. It was a copyright-free song. All you have to do is put in the description box where you got it from, and it's copyright-free. And they still gave me, they told me, look, you're not allowed to monetize this. Now, DUGROZ Nostalgia doesn't make enough to be monetized anyway. So over there, it doesn't even matter. I could sing rather than playing the records. Oh, boy. All right. Let's see. There was one thing we were going to come back to before I wrap it up. What was it? The altitude reserve, the State Farm business card. I don't know if this is it or not, but the next card I'm probably going to pick up is the Business Signify card by Wells Fargo because it's a 2x everywhere card, which could be cash or points. And I actually don't have a 2x everywhere cash card right now. I do have the membership rewards earning card with US Bank, but again, with all those caveats we mentioned earlier in the video, I can't cash those out at a penny each. I have the Inc. Business Unlimited with Chase, but that's 1.5 everywhere. So it would be nice to pick up a true 2x everywhere card, which could be cash out if I want. And yes, Wells Fargo lets you cash out or do their new partner thing or do their travel portal. So I think that would be a good fit for me since I do have that grandfathered Wells Fargo card, the Visa Signature, which lets you use their portal flights at 1.5. So Wells Fargo would be a good fit for me for the 2x everywhere when I can't use mobile wallet, which is pretty rare, but it does happen. Like if you're paying a random bill, like my son does Ninja Gym, American Ninja Warrior type stuff, can't use tap to pay there, doesn't code as anything. So that's a 2x everywhere example. And they have 0% APR for a year. And this is a credit cards like 504 level course. So don't do this if you're a rookie. But if you're comfortable with keeping lots of records and putting your money in a high yield savings account or similar while waiting for that 0% to expire, it's sort of like icing on the cake. So there's a sign up bonus. There's 0%. There's 2x everywhere. It's a business card. So presumably it wouldn't hit your personal credit report, so it wouldn't hurt Chase 524. There's no annual fee. It's like a risk-free card. There's like literally no harm in getting it, and there's 4 reasons to get it right there. So that's where I'll end things, other than every week I do what's on my record player. So let's take a look at that. I hear people talking bad about the way we have to live here in our country. The best of Merle Haggard. This was picked up in Quincy, Illinois when I stopped on the way back from Ziegler. And this is sort of like it's the best of the best. So it's got a lot of cool songs. And I like his music. So that's on the record player right now. And I think it was $2 at a thrift store. The cover's not in the best condition in the entire world, but doesn't smell bad, which is important. Sometimes old record covers smell terrible. And I like the music. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you for everyone who joined in. Thank you to John for your super chat that you dropped for $2. I really appreciate that. And for those of you watching after the fact, feel free to put a comment down below, which could be with a super thanks, but doesn't have to be. Just by watching and going through those advertisements, that supports the channel. And as we discussed a couple of weeks ago, a way to support me for free is when an advertisement comes up, watch that advertisement for at least 12 seconds before you hit the skip button, because then it'll give me a penny or two. If it's less than 12 seconds, the theory is it doesn't give you any funding. Thanks for watching, everyone. And as always, may your spending be frugal and may your points be plenteous. Have a good weekend.